everyone already locked into the Civic Vibes Facebook page action here this afternoon for yet another Sunday, the 25th day of September 2022. That is where we're about to make a start for another very informative and interesting program right here on the Civic Vibes social media platform. So again, I want to extend a hearty welcome to all of you already locked into the live action, as it were. Please share the live as we move along this afternoon. Let me straight off the bat, first and foremost, apologize to the many of you who could not get on last week with the program. This was totally beyond our control. We had some technical issues. I know that a lot of you were trying to get on. We were on, but we could not see you, and some of you could not hear us as well. So we want to apologize to you guys in a very, very profuse way as we move on here. But this afternoon, nonetheless, we are here. The technology seems to be holding up much better this week, much better weather out there as well. The sun is out in its full splendor, though we had some rain earlier, some torrential waters. But you know, we are in that season, and so we expect that kind of weather. This afternoon, buddies, let me tell you guys who are our panelists here this afternoon. We will not be having Brother Alvin Thomas here this afternoon, because Alvin Thomas is somewhere far away. But I know he's maybe glued at this time. So Brother Thomas, wherever you are enjoying yourself, good afternoon to you, my brother, to you and your family out there. This afternoon, we're having Paula Celestine, as usual. Paula Celestine being the host of this program, the Civic Vibes program. So she is here, and we'll be hearing from her in just a bit. And we have another gentleman in with us this afternoon. He's by no means taking the position and place of Brother Alvin Thomas, but you know, he's there with us this afternoon. And that is Mr. Anthony Drago, our buddy. We want to welcome him as well to being on the panel this afternoon with us as we discuss all the issues here as it pertains to the topics that we have for you guys to, you know, just go a little deeper in this afternoon. I have a very good buddy in Antigua and Barbuda, that is Mr. Anthony Stewart. He is celebrating a big day today. That is his big day. That is his birthday. So Mr. Stewart, good afternoon to you, my brother. Enjoy the day. I wish you many, many more years to come, coupled with good health, my brother. And so I know you are on the ground at this time in Antigua, doing your thing to serve your people. I wish you all the best in that endeavor. Those of you out there who may be celebrating something or the other, be it a birthday or an anniversary, just, you know, just celebrating life or the entrance of a new one, a newborn, or whatever it is you're celebrating today, we want to celebrate with you right here from the desk of Civic Vibes. So folks, without further ado, I will, after Paula and Brother Drago introduce themselves, I will come back to just give us an idea where we are going with the discussions this afternoon. So without further ado, let me move across to Paula and say a very special good afternoon to you, Paula.
Good afternoon to you, Lofty. Good afternoon, and how are you, Lofty?
Blessed day, Paula. Good afternoon to you.
Okay, good. Lofty, I would like to say good afternoon to all our viewers, wherever you are, whichever part of the world at this time. By whatever media you are viewing us, I want to say a blessed Sunday afternoon as usual. Without you all, the program would not have been what it usually is. So I want to say hats off to you all this afternoon. Also, Lofty, on another note, you spoke about a gentleman that is celebrating his big day. There's a gentleman that goes by the name of Mr. Whitnell Lee. I'm not sure if he's listening at this time, but Mr. Whitnell Lee, on Tuesday, we may not have the opportunity again, maybe tomorrow. So as we are here, I want to say hats off to Mr. Whitnell Lee on his big day when it comes around on Tuesday. And this man, he may be of age, but this man looks like a 16-year-old. He speaks like a 16-year-old. He walks and does everything like a 16-year-old. So hats off to you, Mr. Lee. Also,
I will agree with you, Paula, just to sort of concretize what you said a while ago in terms of Mr. Whitnell Louis' strength at his good old ripe age. Once I went to Mr. Louis' garden with him, and this guy was just trekking for his garden, and I was breathless at the end of the exercise, just trying to keep up with Mr. Whitnell Louis. So yes, Paula, I can attest to that in terms of the strength of this brother at this ripe age.
Yes. Okay. There is also a young lady who will be celebrating her birthday tomorrow as well. And she's also celebrating her retirement. She retired on Friday. So you know that this young lady, she's of age too, but she looks good. And she's none other than Muta Laville Matthew in the at Kingston area. This lady told me she thought for 40 years. And now that she is on the retirement age, she retired on Friday. She's celebrating her birthday tomorrow. So I want to say hats off to her. I know she will enjoy it because her son is there. He will definitely take care of her and that husband who looks good and young as usual. So hats off to these folks. To Mr. Drygo, good afternoon to you, Mr. Drygo. Nice having you. I know we will have a very great conversation here this afternoon. And as usual, a number of persons are already locked in and yeah, expecting to have a great one. Thank you, Lofty.
All right, thank you very much, Paula, for your opening salvo, as it were. Brother Drygo, a special good afternoon to you, my brother.
Good afternoon, Lofty. Good afternoon, man. Paula, thank you for that warm welcome. I feel right at home. Good afternoon to the viewers and listeners on Civic Vibes. Today, I know I have a tall order because I am sitting where Alvin Thomas has been sitting in the past several weeks. I'm honored. Alvin is indeed a very special friend of mine, somewhat of a mentor. The relationship started as a mentor-mentee, but it has grown more towards a brotherhood as I myself have climbed in age. Not to stretch it too far, but Alvin and I go way back when I came back to Dominica from studying in 1990. I joined the Dominica JCs, and Alvin, I think he became the president that year. And so conquest of ours, he was the general secretary of the Civil Service Association. That's what it was called then. He was the general secretary of that union. And we did so much work late into the night, 2, 3 o'clock in the morning, working on helping him with stuff with the union, but also working on JC stuff and just learning from him. And so I am very proud and honored to be in his stead this afternoon. I look forward to a very lively conversation, all the viewers. I hope at the end of the session this afternoon that you guys will not complain to Alvin, but will give him a good report on my attempt to fill his shoes today. So I feel welcome. Thank you so much for inviting me on.
On the contrary, Drygo, you never know. We might just extend the olive branch to you, as it were, to be part and parcel in full or in fuller measure to be part of the team moving forward, the Civic Vibes team. You never know.
that would be like passing my A-levels all over again, right?
Yeah.
Well, Lumpy, I too want to say blessed Sunday afternoon to Mr. Alvin Thomas. So you know, wherever he is, it's a far, 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 far world. So I guess he's listening to us. So yes, good afternoon to Mr. Thomas. Yeah.
Yes, indeed. Just before we go into the different segments, at least 3 segments we have for you folks out there, let me touch base with some of our people here already, because your contribution, you being present here with us each and every Sunday, we treasure that kind of companionship every Sunday. So we have here Mix Master Jasid. That person is there saying good evening to all of us here. So Jasid, good evening to you as well. Marvella Defoe, good evening to you. Dorian Dorival, that is a usual suspect. This brother is always glued to Civic Vibes. He and his wife and his family. He's saying here to us, Sunday greetings, looking forward to today for the last week's disappointment. So you see what I said before, some folks were very disappointed that we could not be on last week, but that was by no means our doing. It was because of technical issues that was way beyond our control. Margot LaRocque, that is another usual suspect, a very patriotic sister, always on the ground, always doing things for Dominica. So Margot, good afternoon to you, my friend, in a very, very special way indeed. We also have Jan Joseph is listening and watching. Dave Bertrand is watching. That is another usual suspect, I call him. John Blanchard, this brother is always on, always scrutinizing something. Brother John Blanchard, good afternoon to you, my bro, in a very, very special way. You and your daughter. What's your daughter name again, John? You keep saying it so much. Is it Kimaya? Kimaya? Yes. So Kimaya, you and John and your family, good afternoon to you guys. So John Blanchard, a special good afternoon to you, my brother. Keep doing the good work for Dominica, indeed. We also have Rosemary Isles is watching. She's saying blessed afternoon to all of us here. Judith Cochran, that is my fellow villager in the Cochran area, always locked in as well, saying good afternoon to Paula and myself, and by extension, Brother Drago, coming from Judith Cochran up in the Cochran area. A matter of fact, as I'm on that note, talking about Cochran, let me extend wishes to all my folks in Cochran at this time. Those of you viewing this platform, a special good afternoon to you all and sundry. Claralyn Warrington, that lady as well, she's always there. Paula, she's saying that she's nice. It is nice seeing you. That is from Claralyn Warrington. Franklin Timothy, good afternoon to you, my bro. Keep doing the work as well. Stephanie John Baptist, you and your husband down there in the Jimit area, good afternoon to you. Anytime I touch Jimit, I must say good afternoon as well to Celia King. That lady is always on. I haven't seen the name pop up there as yet, but I know for sure sometime later she will be on with us. We also have Jan Harry is watching. Good afternoon to you, Jan. Roy Williams, that is another brother always on with us as well. Good afternoon to you, sir. Dorothy David. Dorothy, let me just pause here and congratulate you in a very special way. Most persons would know you by the name of her local name, or La Plaine Passy. What's her name, Paula? Give me a name again, Dorothy. Dorothy David. Sister Shirley from La Plaine. That young lady always does a very, very good job on Facebook. Always, speaking her mind. And so, yes, Sister Shirls, good afternoon to you. You are there looking on. I enjoyed, in particular, your last episode that lasted about 8 to 10 minutes. Thank you very much. Keep the good work going. And as well, this lady always keeps standing up for young Kenisha, missing young Kenisha. So I just want to single you out this afternoon, Ms. Shirls, for your very, very arduous work in that department. We also have on the list here, Augustine St. Louis. Good afternoon to you. Carol Ann Ford, that is another lady always on board. Good afternoon. Brother Chris Bogono, good afternoon to you, my brother. I saw your fingers were very, very busy a while ago. Let's hope your fingers continue to be very busy right here this afternoon. But knowing Chris is always a busybody on Facebook. Brother Peter Carbon, this brother is very erudite brother indeed, served as the Minister of Agriculture in Dominica for some time. And so he's always here with Civic Vibes each and every Sunday. So Mr. Carbon, good afternoon to you, my brother. My brother, Pat Corbett in the north of Dominica. We say up north, right? So Pat Corbett, you and your lovely folks listening and watching in the north. Good afternoon to you folks. Dory Drago, brother John Blanchard is still here. We mentioned him already. Janet Robinson, good afternoon to you. Didi Easter, that is another erudite sister, always doing the good work right here on social media. So a good afternoon to you, Didi Easter, in a very special way indeed. Roy Francis, we mentioned you already, and the list goes on and on and all. Cara, is that Cara? Yes, Cara Alc, Dilcy Victor, Margel Durand, my cousin here, Margel Durand. Good afternoon to you, my brother up in the Buffett area, you and your lovely folks. Bernice Cothy, Madonna, John Baptist, Marshall Lawrence. So we have a number of folks here, 70 plus, and we have not even get started as yet. So all of you, thank you for being here. And we hope that that list will continue to pile on in terms of your numbers. But let us get into it, people. Let us let you know where we're going with you this afternoon in terms of information. The first segment today is being recognized in Dominica and across the globe, that is, as World Rivers Day. So we in Dominica, if you know us very well from Civic Vibes, we always appreciate our rivers or waterways in Dominica. And so today we'll be having a little discussion as to the importance of our rivers and our waterways to us in Dominica. So that will be our first segment. Our second segment, though, we're calling all men. Those of you who have what you call balls out there, all men, we're calling you to please listen in on to that conversation with our brother Carlton Lando, pharmacist Carlton Lando. He will be here with us at the bottom of the hour to talk about prostate cancer and the need for men. Yes, you men out there, please be in tune to that conversation. I know you will get some much needed information from Carlton Lando to put into practice. And finally, and importantly as well, we have a conversation with Brother Drago, Paula, and myself, and of course you, the listening and viewing audience, on just how important the press in any country, in any democratic country is. So we'll be extrapolating on these issues as it pertains to press freedom in Dominica in particular, right here on the program as we move along. So we're gonna just, to get the conversation going, we're gonna watch a short video clipping of just how our rivers are to us in Dominica in terms of the importance, and then we will start the ball rolling as it was. So let's see if we can get that rivers clip loaded so that you, the viewers out there, can have some kind of idea where we are going with you this afternoon. Let's see if we can upload that. All right, thank you very much, folks. That is where we want to make a solid start to our conversation here this afternoon. Let me thank that group in WAVE. They're doing a very good job. Read the Rivers in Dominica, Father Franklin Coffey and his team. Brother Drago, let me start with you. We already 20 past. We have to engage Brother Lando at the bottom of the hour in 10 minutes time. Let me start with you very quickly. I know you're from the East area, that is in Casabros. Many rivers in Casabros as it were. How important, Brother Drago, are our rivers to us in Dominica? You're on mute. You're on mute. Yes.
Good afternoon, yeah, Lofty. And listeners joined after the intro. Good afternoon again. I'm excited to be here. And one of my passions is water. And just to give a little background as to why I think I am someone who can speak with authority on water in Dominica is that I worked at the WASCO. I was the engineer, I managed the engineering department at the WASCO for a while there until I think 2000, 2001. I worked as a project engineer first, and then I ran the engineering department. So I happen to be very familiar with Dominica rivers and the water system and all of that. And after I migrated to the US, Lofty, I have been involved in construction, and I have constructed major water treatment plants that take water that doesn't look anything like the quality of water that we have in Dominica and convert it to water that is supplied to municipalities for drinking. And so, Loftus, when you ask me how important is water to the Dominican population, there is nothing more important. Absolutely not. Maybe air. Air might be a good competitor in terms of importance of water in the lives of everybody around the world, but also Dominica. At Dominica, where we always hear that we have limited economic power. So as I said, I have worked in projects where we've taken water that the average Dominican would not step in and converted that water into drinking water in municipalities. Those municipalities have the ability to do that. Dominica may not have the capacity to do that. And if we were to devote resources to treating water for drinking, a lot of other areas in our life and our society would suffer. And so I would say that water is extremely important for Dominicans. And we take it for granted. We take water for granted. But, you know, when I was growing up in Castle Bruce, in my early years, we used to carry water. So I remember not having pipe-borne water in Castle Bruce. And so, although water is very abundant, if we were to lose the quality and then we had to go far to fetch water, that would take away time that our kids would be spending at school learning. It would be taking time away from adults that they could be earning, they could be making a living to feed their families. So I'm going there first because we take it for granted. We have such an abundance of water, we take it for granted. And because we take it for granted, we don't protect it as we should. So the direct answer is that next to air that we breathe, water is the most important aspect for the population of Dominica.
Thank you, Brother Drago. Very, very succinct indeed. Thank you for your answer to that all-important question. Paula, yes, as I move across to you, how important, Paula, do you think water is to us in Dominica?
You're muted as well, Paula.
Paula, on mute, yes? Yes.
Yes, thank you. Lofty, this is one of the most important things that I see in anyone's life or in any country. And the reason why I say that, I remember after Hurricane Maria, and I was not here. And when I decided to come back home, I said, you know what? There is no electricity in a number of places in Dominica. But if I have water, then it's okay for me. I can do without the light, but I do not want to do without the water. Because being in a home or in a house where you have absolutely no water, especially clean water, this in itself is a disaster. Because Mr. Drago mentioned about, like, if you do not take water, or if you take water for granted, it's like so many things that can happen. And yes, it is true, because I remember growing up as a young child, where we had to go to the river in the morning before we go to school. And sometimes we have to make like 2-3 trips of water. And by the time you finish carrying this water and you get home to organize yourself to go to school, you have to be rushing. And today, yes, we have the pipe-borne water, but it doesn't mean that because we have the pipe-borne water, we have to pollute our rivers. And what we've been seeing lately, it's like you cannot even really go to the river to take a bath, because most of these rivers is either they are polluted or either they are very shallow. And by that, it's like this in itself again is like, you would say, like another hurricane, because there are times when there is no water, pipe-borne water, and you would really want to go and take a river bath. And even if there is pipe-borne water, a lot of persons, they work during the week, and on the Sunday or the weekend, you would find these people want to go to the river and take a nice river bath. And you do not even really know where for you to go. Because look at Layu, for example, you would have gone to Layu River on a Sunday and take a nice bath. And then now it's like, you go there and it's like nothing, you know, it's like, it's just devastating on how you look at it.
Yes.
So
all right, Paula.
Water is important.
Yes, very important indeed. So yes, in the interest of time, we may have to come back on that conversation or that topic, really importance of our rivers or waterways sometimes in a subsequent program. But for now, we'll have to sort of go to the live feed, take some comments there, and kind of bring a wrap on that conversation because our time is slowly but surely running away from us, and we already have Brother Carlton Lando waiting to start with us at 5:30 here. Let me just say here, Margot Larocque is writing, water is life. And so she sums it up very, very well indeed. Didi Easter is writing, happy River Day. I applaud everyone committed to the cause, saving our waterways indeed. Carol is replying to Margot and she says, yes, you got that right, meaning water is truly life indeed. Marshall Lawrence is writing, water with a question mark. Most essential, use more than most things. So folks, that in an essence is the importance that most persons place on water, basically saying that water is life indeed. As we watch the clock here, monitor the clock, it's 28 minutes past the hour, 5 o'clock. And so we're gonna go now to upload that short clip, that short video clip that we played for you earlier. After we are done and dusted with that clip, we will wind down on that segment and then we'll introduce Mr. Carlton Lando. Let's upload that clip as we're moving on. Indeed, folks, thank you very much. And that is where we want to bring down the curtains on the first segment of our program here, the importance of water in Dominica, where our rivers are concerned. All right, folks, we are now into the second leg of our program, and that is where we want to talk about a subject that is very important to everyone, but in particular, the men. And so all men listening at this time, I wish that at least you could give us an extra ear, as it were, as Brother Carlton Lando is up next with some very interesting information, prostate cancer. The world is recognizing September month as Prostate Awareness Month. And so we decided to bring on Carlton, and he humbly obliged to be with us this afternoon. So just before I ask Brother Carlton Lando anything, let me just give you a brief idea of just who the man, Brother Carlton Lando, is in terms of his profession. It says here, Mr. Carlton Lando is a registered pharmacist since 1988. He is currently head of sales, public health and public relations at Jolly's Pharmacy Limited in Roseau. Mr. Lando is a graduate of the University of the West Indies, graduating with an executive diploma in community health. He is currently enrolled at York St. John University in England, pursuing a Master's of Business Administration, specializing in coaching, mentoring, and leadership. Carlton is embarking in being a life coach and motivational speaker in the near to distant future. Mr. Lando only holds a diploma in public relations and a certificate in advanced supervisory management from the University of the West Indies. Mr. Lando has won many top regional awards for his contribution to health education and promotion and pharmacy practice. These awards include the Caribbean Pharmacist of the Year 2021, and he placed second there, and that conference was held in Bahamas. It was bestowed by the Caribbean Association of Pharmacists that is headquartered in Jamaica. Another award he copped is the Caribbean Community Pharmacist of Distinction Award in 2019. That conference was held in Miami, Florida, from the Caribbean Association of Pharmacists. Another is the Caribbean Pharmacy Practice Pioneer Award in 2017, conference in Jamaica. Another that came his way includes the Pharmacy Spirit Award for Public Health Advocacy in 2016, and that conference was held in Belize. Mr. Lando, we continue here, served as an executive member of the Caribbean Association of Pharmacists Board of Directors from 2018 to 2020. He was the chairperson, sorry. Well, we can also say champion, but he was the chairperson of the communications committee back then. In 2019, Mr. Lando was invited to represent Dominica by the President Clinton Global Foundation at its annual summit held in St. Thomas to speak at a panel discussion on the topic, Sustainable Health by All for the year 2050. Mr. Lando is very involved as technical personnel with the Dominica Cancer Society, the Dominica Diabetes Association, and the Dominica Dialysis Foundation. He continues to support many health and wellness causes and associations in Dominica. Mr. Lando is the host of two popular health talk shows aired weekly on DBS Radio and QFM 95. That is the program they are called Health Pulse and Health Vibes. He is also the editor of a Jolly's Pharmacy internal health newsletter called Health in Focus. Mr. Lando has been the keynote speaker at many public forums and continues to inspire and motivate people on matters of health and wellness. He is a husband and father of 2 children. He also on the Commonwealth Pharmacy Association based in England. And finally, he received a Medal of Merit, being placed second position for the Caribbean Pharmacist of the Year at a conference in Guyana, and that is August of this year, 2022. Ladies and gentlemen, without further ado, it is my great pleasure here from Civic Vibes to welcome to our platform, Mr. Carlton Lando. Carlton, good afternoon to you in a very special way.
Good afternoon to you, Lofty, and to many of your listeners at this time. It is a pleasure being a guest on your new talk show. I have listened from time to time. I must say, usually on a Sunday is my rest day, so I don't pay much attention to the television and radio so much. But when I do get a chance, sometimes it comes up on my phone inadvertently. I do listen, and so I want to congratulate you on your new talk show that is virtual.
Yes, indeed. And Carlton, we appreciate you being here with us this afternoon in the flesh to speak so well virtual as it is, but persons can see you, to talk about a very important topic, particularly as it relates to men health issues, and that is prostate cancer. Where Carlton, do you want to start the conversation with us this afternoon?
All right, so I'm going to start with what the statistics are showing. And our statistics over the past 20 years have not, unfortunately, changed. Prostate cancer remains the #1 cause of death among men here in Dominica. And the statistics are showing that men who have been above the age of 60 are more likely, if diagnosed, or if they are diagnosed late, to succumb to the complications of prostate cancer. We have seen a slight improvement in terms of the awareness and the more responsible behavior in terms of men adhering to the information that has been broadcast and going to see their doctor. But the numbers are not where we want them to be. We know that culture, stigma, and miseducation have some way, somehow caused many of the deaths that we've seen. And it is very, very sad when even in 2022, where there have been more information permeated and broadcast, that our men are still frightened, they're still perplexed, and they are still ignorant of some of the vital information that is out there relating to our prostate health. more specifically the screening that is involved in detecting and diagnosing prostate cancer. But let me begin by just in a nutshell describing or characterizing what the prostate is. So the prostate is basically a small organ that is shaped almost like a walnut that sits right in the base at the back of the anus. And to really access the prostate, it means that you have to get into the rectum. And I think that is the area that most men fear. But I always say to men, for a woman for a doctor to get to a woman's cervix, they must access the vagina. And oftentimes, just as we may have discomforts accessing the rectum, women do have discomforts accessing the cervix, which is even a little deeper. And whereas the doctor in question would just use the index finger, the gynecologist has to actually use an instrument called a spatulum to open up the cervix to get in there. So it's a little even more intricate than what we would have to go through. Now, basically what the prostate gland does is that it nourishes and transports sperm. So that's what it basically does. It nourishes and it transports sperm. So if we don't have a prostate gland, then we will not be able to make children. We will not be able to have a viable, active sex life, a healthy sex life. And so the prostate gland is very, very, very important. It is the most sensitive part of the man's body, and it is a part that men often look at as sacred. However, it is that little organ that often have caused so many premature deaths among us that could have been prevented. And hence the reason why today I really took that time to, at least, if I can convince at least one man today who would have listened to the contents of the show, then my time would not be in vain.
Yes, thank you, Carlton. Just before I move across to Drago, he being a man himself to ask you a question, let me just ask you, what are some of the signs or symptoms, Carlton, of a man and his prostate being enlarged? What are some of the signs?
That's a good question that you've asked. Generally, as men, as we age, our prostate enlarge. Now, if the prostate is enlarging too quickly, then it's suspicious that something is not right. So even if you were to go to your doctor and your doctor says to you that your prostate seems a little enlarged, it is nothing to be too frightened about once it's not cancerous, because as we age, from a biological and chemical standpoint, our prostate gland will also be altered. The very same thing applies to our kidneys, our bladder, our heart. These organs will subsequently begin to change some way, somehow, as we age. Now, for the prostate, the change normally occurs from the age of 37 all the way up. However, most urologists have said and continue to say that we begin to test the prostate at the age of 40. So we'll be testing what we call a PSA at the age of 40. Why 40? Because at that age, we see fluctuations in our hormones, particularly testosterone. And it's that testosterone, that hormone, that if it's too high, abnormally too high in the blood, will cause prostate cancer. The very same thing with breast cancer and women. If the estrogen levels are too high, and that is abnormally too high, then it causes breast cancer. So yes, we need testosterone to give us muscle tone, our voice tone, our the cut of our bodies, the hairs on our skin, our sex drive, our erection, and all of that. However, too much of one thing is good for nothing. And so therefore, if you have too much of a high concentration of that testosterone, then it creates a problem. Hence the reason why when patients are treated, they are given anti-testosterone medicines to help to reverse and delay the symptoms of prostate cancer. So let's look at some of the symptoms that often a man may see or may not see, because sometimes the symptoms are asymptomatic. And when we say asymptomatic, it means that there is an absence of signs and symptoms. And so I don't want you to be to have a false sense of security, expecting to see symptom or waiting to see one or two symptoms and then subsequently going to see your healthcare provider. Let's not wait for the symptoms to occur. However, it is my responsibility to still let you know what some of the critical symptoms are as it relates to prostate cancer. So the first one that oftentimes our patients will see is trouble urinating, or you may find frequent urination. You may be diabetic or may not be diabetic, because if you are diabetic, then polyuria or frequent urination is one of the symptoms. However, if you know that you're not diabetic, you don't have a urinary tract infection, and you just cannot hold your pee anymore, you get that urge to pee and you have to pee almost immediately. You find that when you pee, you drip a lot. Sometimes you think that you're done peeing and you put your penis back in your underwear. Time you zipping up, pee's running down your pants, then that's already something that may need to be monitored. If you have blood in the urine, so you recognize you're seeing blood in your urine or blood in your semen, that is suspicious. So you recognize generally when you do pee, like most of us, we should see a fainty yellow color, but then subsequently you start seeing the color looking almost like a dark orange. Um, that could also mean that the pee has blood residue in it. And if that occurs, then you would have to do a urinalysis to find out exactly what's happening. And then the doctor would have to do an ultrasound to see where the blood may be coming from. Some people may experience bone pain, particularly around the spinal area, the waistline. You may experience bone pain. And although bone pain may be a very critical symptom, because it could mean that you may have the cancer and it has metastasized into your bone, or you could be developing as well colorectal cancer, which could be where the prostate can actually spread into the colon, and you could end up having colorectal issues as well. Um, Abnormal weight loss. So you've been losing weight, you've not been on a diet, you can't think of any reason why you're losing weight, and your weight loss is unexplained. It is acute, meaning that it's sudden. That is something that you want to monitor as well. If you recognize that you are having infrequent erections, so your erections are very inconsistent, though as we age, our erections may be affected. It may not be as robust and firm and strong as when we were in our 20s or teens. However, if you recognize a significant change in the erection, that is also something that needs to be monitored. If you're experiencing pain when you sit, so you're sitting, but you're having this pressure right between your testicles and your bottom, right there where the prostate is usually located, you're feeling this intense pressure. It's almost like a heat, and you're feeling this burning consistently, then that is something that would warrant physical and also chemical evaluations. When I say chemical evaluations, we're talking about blood tests, blood chemistry, maybe scans, and all of those things. radiological procedures. So some of those would have to be done to confirm and ascertain where and what is causing these symptoms. Now, we do know that there are risk factors that are associated with the prostate. And one is our age. So as we age, it means that there will be changes, as I said, with that organ. And subsequently, we may see a change in some of the physical attributes that I did mention earlier on. Your race is also a factor. Prostate cancer is more prevalent among Blacks, and so we don't know the main cause. It might be something in our genes, but scientists are alluding that Blacks are more likely to succumb to prostate cancer than Caucasians. Family history, and that is one that is very tricky. When we do talk about family history, whether it is on the female side of the families, so you may have your mother or sisters who have had breast cancer, although they have had breast cancer, which is related to estrogen, that family history predisposes you as a man. Although you might say, well, I have estrogen, but not on the high side, like a female, because we do have estrogen too. But it also predisposes you to prostate cancer. And as well too, if there are men in your family who have succumbed or who have survived or who are battling prostate cancer, then that increases your risk factor. Your nutrition. So if you're consuming large amounts of dairies, large amounts of red meats, you are more than likely as well to increase that hormone in the blood, what we call the PSA, that can predispose you to developing prostate cancer. And there have also been indication to link obesity to prostate cancer. And when we talk about obesity, we must link it with dietary modifications and lack thereof. We must include sedimentary lifestyles if we're not exercising enough. So you can see the correlation between obesity and nutrition in that aspect.
Very, very useful information indeed, Brother Landon. Thank you very much for it. Brother Drago, I yield to you now.
Well, Brother Lando, thank you so much for that information. You're so eloquent and
Thank you.
And so familiar with your information. I can tell that you are a very consummate professional when it comes to your work, and we thank you for that. We thank you for that professionalism. I'm the host of a program on TV and radio called This Week in Interview, and every so often we do tackle health programs, and we've done prostate health and so on. And as a man myself, with a lot of brothers and a lot of male friends, you alluded to the fact that men seem to be embarrassed about doing the test because culturally we have this stigma about thing that has to do with our anus. We're associated for whatever reason with homosexuality, and because of our culture, that seems to be taboo and all of that. Even now that we are becoming more enlightened, understanding that different people have different lifestyles, and it's acceptable. We still, when it comes to our person, have this discomfort with anything that has to do with our anus and our rectum. I remember the first time that I had a prostate exam. It's an experience like no other experience. Because the doctor goes into your anus with his finger, and when you think he has gotten to his destination, he seems to bend his finger and go around another corner, and it's like, wow, how far up is he going? So it's not a necessarily a walk in the park, like eating ice cream or whatever it is. But when you think that the stakes are your quality of life and your life, as a matter of fact, so it's premature death, as you mentioned, or you know, if it goes too far before you're diagnosed and you have to have certain surgery stuff, it can really affect. I've seen it as certain men. You cannot work, you walk differently, a lot of things changes. I think a little discomfort, because they quite frankly, the exam doesn't last for over 10 seconds, if all that. And so I believe talking about it as men is important to make all the men understand that and get comfortable around it. I had my prostate exam 2 months ago. I had my prostate exam. I do a prostate exam every year. Similarly, I do a colonoscopy every 3 to 5 years, depending on whether they found polyps or not. So those are simple steps that we can take that has such great impact. I congratulate Loftus for doing what he's doing this afternoon, bringing you on, and I congratulate you, because I can tell it's not the first time. As I said, you do it so comfortably that we really have to get our men comfortable and understanding what the stakes are. 10 seconds of discomfort for an extra 10 years of a viable and strong life. But the question I want to ask before I go back is, we haven't spoken, but you spoke about the risk factor increasing if we have a sedentary life. But the converse, what does exercise do in terms of the risk? And exercise might simply be taking a walk or those kind of things. Can you touch on that a little bit in terms of reducing?
Definitely. I will answer your question subsequently, but I don't know how much time that I do have. I think I may have 30 minutes. I just wanted to really explain the difference between the digital rectal examination and the PSA blood test, and then I will answer your question. Now, what we've seen in Dominica is that, and my statement might be a little controversial, but I have been in this business for many, many years. And because I concentrate more on clinical pharmacy in terms of meeting people and really having that more in-depth conversation, I have recognized that even some of our healthcare providers may not be very comfortable even doing the digital rectal examination. And so what we've seen is that most of our men will preliminarily be assessed by the PSA blood tests only. And they do that blood test, yes, they go to the lab, they have it done, the results come in, the doctor may see the PSA at 2.4, and he says, all is well. And yes, the test might be accurate, but in the absence of the digital rectal examination, that test does not in no way warrant, confirm, or relate what the physiological changes of the prostate are, okay? And so the digital rectal examination, what it does is that when that doctor puts his finger inside of your rectum, getting all the way up to the prostate, what he's feeling for, he may go in a circular motion. So because I said the organ is like a walnut in shape, he has to go circularly. So when he does that, he's literally feeling the texture of the prostate. Now the prostate is supposed to feel smooth, right? Physiologically. If it begins to feel bumpy or rough, then that's already an indicator that something is suspicious. Where else you would have done that blood test and your PSA would have shown it's normal, but then physiologically, there are changes taking place that would not have been detected because of the absence of the digital rectal examination. So they're feeling for the texture, They fill in for the shape to see if there is any abnormality with the shape. So what if the shape is no longer walnut and it has changed to a moon shape? Okay. They also fill in for the size of the prostate. So it's supposed to have a specific size. I can't remember the normal size of my head right now, but it's supposed to have a specific size. And if it's bigger, then they would know the risk in terms of you having prostate cancer that could be benign or malignant. And so that is why the digital rectal examination is so important. One of the things that I say to men who come to see me all the time is one, find a physician that you are most comfortable with. Because I know the examination is very invasive. You have to lie. Your bottom has to be exposed to the doctor's face. You understand? So it feels a little humiliating. I have done it because I'm almost 50, so I know what it was. But even when I was preparing to have my DRE done, digital rectal examination done, I chose a doctor that I felt very comfortable with. And you would know, as a medical professional, I know practically all the doctors. So you want to walk on the road and not feel embarrassed that that doctor was touching you yesterday. So I thought of that all psychologically, and knowing that I could choose a doctor that I felt was the consummate professional, that tomorrow I can meet him at a forum and don't feel no way. So that's the first thing, comfort. Secondly, the doctor will talk with you as he goes along. So the doctor is just going to put you there quiet, and the room just gets quiet, and he puts his glove and he takes this gel and he puts on the finger and just push inside of you. It's gentle. And for most part, I think most of us who have done it, the gel residue makes us feel a little uncomfortable. So after it's done, even if the doctor wipes or may ask you to wipe, you still feel a little, this slime and the thing. So that makes you feel a little uncomfortable, knowing that evidentially there was something happening there. But really and truly, the test is preliminarily, it's moderately very, very simple, and it's really not painful. It's not a painful test that if the doctor is properly trained, you're not going to see no bleeding or anything like that, unless there is an acute inflammation happening there. So let's say you have prostatitis and it's severely inflamed. And well, I would hope that the doctor would not go touching it at that time, because it would cause more discomfort and pain. But other than that, these are that I wanted to differentiate why the two tests are important. So they should not be done in absence of the other. They should be done simultaneously. So when you do go to do the blood test, you do the rectal digital examination at the same time. And so the doctor can evaluate the texture, the shape, the size, and at the same time too, your blood test would confirm the hormonal levels of the prostate to sort of warrant whether medication would have to be given, whether a biopsy would have to be done, whether subsequent scans would have to be done, and so forth in the way forward to your treatment. In terms of exercise, and exercise is value laden because I may include sex as part of one of the exercises. And from all urology literature that I've read, and I have two friends that are urologists, frequent sex is actually recommended for men. The more that we have sex, the better it is for the prostate's health. You're literally helping the prostate gland to produce more semen, healthy semen as well. You are helping with the whole synthesis of biology that happens there. And so you're helping with the expulsion of healthy semen and sperm from the urethra. So it is recommended that we should engage in sexual intercourse. I listen to people, and I say that to all adults. I don't discriminate whether you're married or not. I say to you, if you are in a healthy relationship as a man, you should have sex at least 2 to 3 times a week on an average. Once your lady doesn't have a period, then you're in a very happy relationship. sex is mutual, it is respected, you're treating the lady well, because ladies are emotional. If you treat them terrible, you will have problems with that sex. But let's say you're having a very fruitful, healthy relationships, at least 2 to 3 times, you should have sex. If you don't have a partner, then masturbation may also help. And in this forum, I like to be very upfront and blunt, and I don't use any religious barriers. I am a science at its core, and that's what I go by. So I will say that. So even if you don't have a partner and you need to also help with your prostate health, frequent masturbation would also be a factor. Now, we did speak about the risk factor of obesity. So here it is, you are relaying or asking the question about physical activity. And of course, physical activity certainly helps. It helps with the regulation of your hormones. And one of the key hormones is insulin. As we exercise more frequently, it means that our body releases more insulin, and that excess and that release of insulin dilutes the excess sugar in our blood. So if we are not exercising often, then the pancreas actually gets lazy and doesn't release sufficient insulin to dilute the excess sugars that we would have consumed from the foods that we're eating. And so we can see the correlation between obesity, lack of exercise, and sedimentary lifestyle to also affecting the prostate gland, because again, it's all about endocrine, the whole hormonal levels and how they are altered. Now, if you have testosterone and you are not using it, you are not building on it, you are not balancing it off, then you could have an overgrowth of it. And subsequently, that could give you a spike in your PSA, your prostate specific antigen. And so therefore, predisposing you to prostate cancer. So yes, exercise plays a vital role in the reduction, prevention, and delay, if I should say, of prostate cancer.
Very, very vital information indeed, Carlton. I realize that we have gone past our half an hour mark scheduled time, but the information is so vital, so interesting to men and women in particular, that we will afford you, will afford us, will afford the listeners some time to kind of get a little further with the discussion here. We have some questions here as well that we want to punch at you, that is, from the listening public as well. But let me move across to Paula. Paula, you being a woman, any thoughts you want to chime in with now?
Well, Lofty, I was in class a while ago listening to Mr. Lando. I took quite a lot of notes. One of the questions that I wanted to ask him, he have already spoken about it, because I wanted to ask him at what age that someone should start doing their test, and he said at the age of 40, Mr. Lando, 40?
Yes, 40.
But you also mentioned something about the age of 37.
Yes, so we'll begin to actually look for signs and symptoms. I will tell you, medicine is changing so much, and it's because we've seen a spike in CNCDs. In years gone by, colonoscopies were actually started at 50 years. Now, doctors are recommending that your first colonoscopy should be at the age of 45 because of the spike of colorectal cancer and colon cancers that they're seeing. So we're seeing too, even with prostate cancer, the probability of a man below the age of 40 having prostate cancer is very, very small. It's very minute, but there have been a few cases. So urologists are still saying, if you do have some of these risk factors already, you are overweight, you have a high family history, you're seeing some of the signs, you may not be 40 as yet, but it does not mean that you have to delay and wait until 40 to actually go to your doctor for a screening. So we're saying that you may not be 40, but you are recognizing some of the key signs and symptoms, you should go and get an evaluation.
Yes, indeed.
Thank you very much. Mr. Lando, I know a lot of the men that are listening to us at this time, when you mention about frequent sex, it really helps. I know some of the men are maybe saying to their girlfriend or their wives now, you heard Carlton talking about that, so you have to do that 3-4 times a week. So Mr. Lando, some of the women this evening going to be blaming you for those maybe that doesn't want to do it that frequent. But the thing about it is, if the women really love the men, like you are saying, they have a very good relationship, and then you want your husbands or your boyfriends to be free from prostrate. No, you really need to help them. So Mr. Lando, thank you very much.
Yeah, I did put the disclaimer out that women are emotional, so we need to treat them very well in order for us to be able to get that. You know, you cannot call her all kind of nasty names and later down want to, So let's be respectful, in the whole process.
Yes.
True.
Okay, yeah.
All right.
Okay.
Thank you very much, Paula, for your input here. Very valuable contribution indeed. Let us move to the chat now, Brother Lando, so we can take some comments or questions from there whilst we look at wrapping up that conversation in just a bit with you. Very interesting information. Claralyn Warrington is writing here. I always listen to him on Wednesdays. That is on Health Vibes, and also on Fridays. Just love his program. So some kudos coming your way from Claralyn. Brother John Blanchard is writing, Mr. Lando, you deserve an honorary doctorate for your significant contribution in health matters. That is what Brother John Blanchard is saying or suggesting here. Marshall Lawrence is asking a question here. It says, was prostate cancer an issue for our forefathers and grandfathers, meaning the 30, 40, 50 years ago?
That's a good question. I did ask that question to my mother at some point. And yes, the fact of the matter is that medicine at the time wasn't as advanced in terms of diagnostic procedures and so forth. There were not many radiological apparatuses and equipments like MRI and CT scans and all of that. So the doctors basically used what they had. And many people succumbed to cancer within those age groups there and did not know. However, the prevalence of cancer may not have been high as we do have it now, because we know that cancer itself is a lifestyle disease. It has a lot to do with lifestyle. And yes, there may be some genetic and ethnical factors, but we know primarily that it's generally lifestyle modified. And so the answer I would say is yes. The prevalence may not have been as high as now, but I do believe that people succumbed to prostate cancer in the 70s and 60s and so forth. Yes.
Yes, indeed. Thank you for your response here. Didi Easter is writing here. Historically, men are known to ignore issues affecting their health. That's where their significant other or female family member comes in. Encourage the men in our lives to have the annual physical checkup and address any symptoms, such as urinary issues that may be associated with the prostate gland, which may be or may not be related to cancer. It continues by saying any urinary problems must be discussed or rule out underlying causes. Urinary problems might lead to construction of the urinary tract. That is the statement coming from Didi Easter. A question to you, Brother Lando, it says from Margot Larrock. Ask Mr. Lando for us whether fasting or cleansing can reduce the possibility of prostate cancer.
There is no facts about that. Cleansing and fasting may have more a gastrointestinal impact than a prostate impact. Because if we're talking about cleansing and fasting, you can see the impact on the gastrointestinal system, the stomach, the intestines, but I don't see it correlated with the prostate. You made a statement, you read a statement from a lady, and I really wanted to elaborate on that, especially wives. You may be in bed with your husband or boyfriend, recognize he gets up at 2 a.m., let's say at 2 a.m. to use the bathroom, and you recognize that he's in the bathroom for more than 15 minutes. And you may notice that it's not, maybe you get up and you watch and you see he's standing there. He may not tell you that he's experiencing symptoms. And a lot of the times men are afraid to even discuss these things, or they think it's a prideful thing. That is when you should initiate the conversation. You should initiate what you said. You might be washing your husband's underwear, and you recognize when you take it from the clothes basket, it's always smelling of urine, and you recognize more and more you see in urine residue in his underwear. That is something too that could be a sign, or you could see blood or something in the underwear. That is something. So a lot of the times men don't want to tell you. You might tell them, "You all right?" And they'll tell you, "Yes, man, I good. I'm fine." I may not tell you. So these are little telltale things that you want to observe as a woman. You may even see that he's having difficulty maintaining his erection. A lot of times women might think, well, it's somebody else. But no, it's not just somebody else. It could be physiological, something happening to him. Your husband could be diabetic, and that's why he's having erectile dysfunction as well. He doesn't know, you may not know, and so therefore it's important to screen even for diabetes. I also wanted to mention quickly, because I know we're out of time, the biopsy, because lots of men have had to do biopsies to do with the prostate. And a biopsy basically is um, a biological invasion whereby the doctor will take specimen from the organ that is of concern. Sometimes they cut a piece of the tissue, sometimes they scrape a piece of the tissue, and then they send it to do a histology. So then they send it to the lab to basically analyze and then subsequently do what they call cancer markers on them to find out whether there is a presence of cancer cells. So the biopsy of the prostate is a very difficult procedure. If you're thinking that the digital rectal is so hard and you're afraid to do it, well, I can imagine how terrifying it might be for you to do the biopsy, because at that time they have to use certain invasive equipments and even things to cut, because they have to get in the prostate and cut tissue. You will have bleeding, you will have all of that happening. So it's graphic to think about it, but also think about you having to put a catheter up your urethra. And the catheter is a small tube that is pushed all the way at the opening of your penis into the bladder to help you to pee better. So these are things that people with prostate cancer have to endure. And we're saying to you, prevention is better than cure. Knowing now is better than not knowing at all. And when you do know, it is extremely, extremely dire. Very late, you're at a stage 4. There is nothing that can be done for you. And you're screaming your guts out in the night because you cannot pee, and big clots of blood coming out from your urethra. Instead of pee coming out, clots of blood coming out. And these are things that these are complications that can occur with prostate cancer. And it's a very painful cancer. So I sometimes have to use the realities in terms of what the hardcore information is, to
Yes.
let me recognize that this is not something to play with.
Brother Carlton, trust me, we could go on and on and on. The information, I'm gripped. Brother Drygo, I see he's gripped. And most of the feedback that we're getting, the persons are very interested in taking in the information that is coming from you this afternoon. But just to sum it up here, let me just go to a comment from Everlasting Peter. He says, "Thank you, Mr. Lando. Very, very educational and informative indeed." Adelaide Paul is saying very informative as well. The knowledge is very, very much needed. And that is how I will wrap it up with the viewership and the listenership this afternoon in terms of the comments or question. Let me just get back to you, Brother Lando, as we wrap up here. Any final comments from you, sir?
Definitely. Well, Lofty, I should have said at the beginning of the show, today is World Pharmacist Day. And so it falls on a Sunday this year. And so it is, I want to say, Happy World Pharmacist Day to all my colleagues, both locally, regionally, and I do have international colleagues as well. as we forge ahead to change the scope of pharmacy practice in the world. I think the world would have noticed by now that pharmacies are definitely more than tablet counters and mixers of medicines, but we are health educators. We are the first line health professionals that you will access when you do have symptoms. And why you do so? Because you have a lot of faith and you have competence as well in us. So from me to you, it was my pleasure being a guest on your show. Feel free to call and to, if you do need my input on any health matter in the future, once you give me enough due notice, I will certainly I will certainly make an appearance. To all your listeners and viewers, thank you for listening to me. It was my pleasure, and continue listening to me on QFM and DBS on a weekly morning. Take care, everybody, and bye-bye.
Thank you, Carlton. And just before you go, Carlton, let me tell you something, bro. Your customer service skills at Jolly's, it is exceptional, second to none. And so publicly, Carlton, I want to thank you for that kind of, attitude that you have with everyone who comes to you for help, especially in health matters. I see you at work, and I want to commend you and compliment you publicly for that.
Thank you very much, sir. I appreciate that.
Yes.
Have a good evening, everybody.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Thank you indeed.
Good evening, man.
Bye-bye.
Yeah.
All right, folks, that was it in terms of the information that we had to dispense here from the health aspect where prostate cancer is concerned, especially as it relates to our men, both here in Dominica and those of you who live abroad. I knew I got something, Brother Drago got something, Paula got something for sure, and you out there, based on your participation, we know that you guys got something indeed. So thank you, Carlton Lando, once more for your invaluable contribution here. Ladies and gentlemen, we're going to take a little musical break now. We have been at it in terms of the, heavy metal information. We're going to take a little break, give you a little music, and then when we come back, I'm going to give my voice a little break, and Brother Drago and Paula will be sort of, taking you off to a higher plane, as it were, in terms of the press and the freedom of the press, not just in Dominica, but across the globe, and the importance of that in any democracy. Let's take a break. We'll be right back in just a bit. Let's do this one from our brother Nasio. Not this one, 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 Brother Bob. Will come to you in a while. Let us give Nasio, our brother, a knock here as we move along. Nasio, where are you, my brother? Come in, come in. Yep, this one.
This is Reggae Power. We got to act. And that the people need justice, and everybody needs some justice. And we got to have justice. Oh, every people need some justice. Lord, justice. Down in the ghetto we need justice. And we got to have justice. See all the people cry for justice. Yeah. Apartheid got to go. We got to give justice a chance to flow now. Racism, well, that can't last. Racial discrimination is a thing of the past. So we got to have justice. Yeah, we cry justice. Come on and give the people justice. Lord, so we got to have justice. By enemy, there must be justice, Lord, and we need justice. Check out the people cry for justice, Lord, yeah, justice.
Yes, indeed. Justice. The people need some justice as we are moving along right here on the Civic Vibes program.
Let justice flow. We're gonna fight to make it so. Let justice be. Everyone can be free. Come on, let the justice strong. All could stand on common ground. I wanna let you know there won't be no peace without justice and equality.
That is very profound from the man Nasio. There will be no peace without proper justice indeed. Huh?
Oh, yeah. Unrighteousness.
Those of us who yearn for peace, I think we should yearn for justice as well, huh?
Justice for one and justice for all. Too much division, too much of class, and too many wars. So, yeah.
Brother Nasir Fontaine, thank you very, very much indeed. A very interesting number entitled Justice. Let us move back to our panel here as we are continuing on the information that we are dispensing to you guys. Although it's 25 minutes past the hour of 6 o'clock already. Brother Drago, Paula, again, let us, continue on the conversation. We go about to open up now, as it were, the freedom of the press and the importance thereof.
Lofty, is that a cue for me to jump in?
Go right ahead. I said I'll be taking a little break, so you and Paula will shoot.
All right.
Go right ahead, Drago. Yes.
Yeah. So, even before we get into the meat of it, I want to recognize what you do and what Civic Vibes does as a very salient part of the media in Dominica. And so I don't want folks to just take it for granted that Lofty and Paula is on a Sunday with a guest and we spend our Sunday afternoon being educated like we were today. And right before and during the break on the screen, you had a donation page. And folks, Lofty didn't put me up to this, but I'm going to say that I hope that your audience doesn't just listen, that they actually take note of the donation page and that they make a donation. If we have 100 folks on the live and each of them make a donation of $10, that's $1,000. That helps to go to defray a lot of the cost that's associated with providing a program like this. So I hope I'm not being too forward, and I crave your indulgence to tell your audience that you need to participate. And that is where I want to start with a comment that democracy, I hear you say it a number of times, Lofty, democracy is not a spectator sport. It's a sport that requires participation from everyone. And part of that participation has to be to recognize the important aspects of that democracy and support it. And today specifically, we're talking about the media and the importance of the media in a democracy. And therefore, I am saying that Civic Vibes is an important part of the media fabric in Dominica, important, and thereby an important part of democracy. And we have to make sure that we don't take Lofty and Paula and the team that works with him for, just assume that they will be there all along. Let us show our support, not just by making nice comments. They need that. Everybody needs encouragement, but also participating. Open your wallet, donate $10. If you can, donate $100. But even if you can only donate $10, if everybody donates $10, I'm sure it would make a difference, Loftus, in the operations, and it would strengthen that aspect of the media. So I am going to take that as my opening statement in the discussion.
As you on that, Brother Drago, thank you very much for plugging that in here. As you said, I didn't put you up to that. We didn't put you up to that, but we say some things come out at the right time. And I just want to expound on what Brother Drago just said a while ago, in that some persons have the mindset that, hey, we are on social media, we are on Facebook, so there is no expense to what is being done here each and every Sunday at a very high level. The professionalism there, it's at a very, we pitch the bar very high in terms of the content that we put out to our many, many listeners out there. We got light bills to pay. We got internet bills to pay. We got something printing papers, whatever it is to pay. We have things to take care of in terms of overall cost. And so I just wanted to reiterate that to, kind of drive home the point that Drago made a while ago, that Paula is at her home now. Paula has internet to pay. We have gadgets to buy, and we are always trying to upgrade what we do here. Soon time to come, then you'll have the opportunity to call into the program so that persons listening can hear your voice as well. So all that is in the works. So I just wanted to, add to what Brother Drago has said a while ago, that in life, there's a cost to everything and anything. And so, yes, Civic Vibes too have a cost that we have to meet on a monthly basis. Brother Drago, I apologize.
Why you apologize?
Go ahead.
I thank you for not making me think I was too forward. And you say you were really listening to me and Paula, so I'll actually have Paula jump in there.
Okay. Yeah, Mr. Drago,
Yes.
get the ball rolling.
Okay. All right.
I'm in class this afternoon.
You're in class this afternoon. Okay. So what predicated the discussion on democracy in this period, this time, was the declaration of International Day of Democracy. And this particular discussion that we're having right now is especially relevant because the UN, when they declared International Day of Democracy this September, the focus of Democracy Day is the importance of media freedom to democracy, peace, and delivering on sustainable development goals. So the focus is on the importance of media freedom to democracy, peace, and delivering sustainable development goals. So democracy, we like to define democracy as government that is simple is that and colloquial definition, government of the people, for the people, and by the people. So if we don't have an educated population, if we don't have a population that is informed and adequately educated, how can that government be of the people? How can it be for the people? And how can it be by the people? Okay, so Lofty, I don't know if you're frozen. Can you hear me well? Okay, yeah, you can
yes,
hear
I'm
me.
hearing you pretty well, yes.
Okay, yeah, okay. So that is why the media is such an important part of democracy. Because for the government to be of the people have to select the persons that they want to put up for to represent them. So who does the village of Cochrane choose as the person they want to represent them in parliament? Who does Marigot want? And if the people are the ones selecting who is going to represent them, then you will have a government that is of the people. Of course, the people have to have the information and the education to make proper choices when it comes to that. So who do you choose as a person that you're going to put up to represent you? Is it the best footballer in your community? Is it the best cricketer in your community? Is it the person who has the biggest business and making the most money? How do you go about choosing somebody that's going to represent you in an election to say, okay, there are four folks that we're going to put up and then everybody's going to choose. So on what is the basis and what is the criteria that you're going to use to put folks up for that? And the media plays a role because the media now has the role to educate the people, to tell them, okay, Choose somebody you think who will have your interest. Choose somebody you think that is competent. Examine somebody's qualifications. Examine their characteristics. Educate them as to the very process. What does it mean to elect somebody? How long they're going to stay there? Once you've elected them, if you're not happy with how they're performing, are you able to remove them? All of that education has to come from the media. So the media plays a role in that, in that part of the government being of the people, because the folks that are selected are going to form the government, and they come from within the population. And that is why you also hear some of those other popular sayings that people get the government that they deserve. You get the government that you deserve because it's assumed that you are the ones who chose the people who are going to go up for election. And so if you make the wrong choice and you get Abu Solavi to run your affairs and he's taking everything for himself, you got the government you deserve because you did not make an educated choice. And so the media is important when that happens. It also says that government has to be for the people. How do you know that a government is for you? Again, you definitely depend on the media to inform you as to what those guys are doing. When those guys leave Castleberry, so they leave Salisbury, and they go to Roseau, and they go to the House of Assembly, you depend on the media to bring, not only to bring the House of Assembly proceedings, but to help you to interpret what is said in the House of Assembly. You depend on the media to have an interview, a robust interview with your representative, and say, well, Mr. Drago, you're representing the Castleberry constituency for the last 12 months, okay? What have you done in that last 12 months for the benefit of the Castleberry people? And therefore, the Castleberry people can watch the answer that this person is giving you, and they will say, okay, I check this box, I check this box, I check this box. And your term is for 5 years. What else do you hope to achieve during your time? Well, we're going to resurface the basketball court. We're going to put lighting. We're going to try to find farmers market so farmers can come and sell their produce and whatever, and improve the schools and so on. And after 2 or 3 years, you can come back and say, well, last year, 2 years ago, you said you were going to do 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. You have accomplished 1, 2, 3, 4. What's the reason why you didn't do the other 2? And so answers to those kind of questions will establish in your mind that you have a government that is for you, government for the people. And therefore, based on those answers, when the time comes back around and you have to elect somebody, you would make a decision on whether you want to re-elect that person or whether you should be getting new people to try to represent you because that person failed in improving the life of the community. And of course, government by the people is the elections, you know? So when there is a campaign, the media is responsible for bringing the information to the people. The media is supposed to come to Dominica and say, we've had a government in Dominica for 10 years. This is where Dominica is in relation to Antigua, in relation to St. Lucia, in relation to Barbados. This is where Dominica is in the world. The media plays an important part in bringing that information to folks so that, because the key is that you can make a decision based on information, based on education, based on data. And so if you don't have that, you're basically buying a lottery ticket. You may as well toss something up in the air. If it comes down head, then you vote for Drago, and if it comes down tail, you vote for Lofty. And of course, that is not how we would run our lives. That's not how we run our business. Why should we run our country that way? And so the media plays that important role in educating the population and in giving them the information that they need so that they can make proper decisions. And that if you don't have proper decisions made, do you really have a democracy? If you go have an election but the election is run on the basis of somebody coming and give you a drink, someone coming and give you some galvanized, somebody coming and if an artist and do a concert and they make you emotional and hype up and you go to the election on that high and you go vote and you choose somebody to represent you. Is that really a democracy? Are you living in a democracy where because one person has more money than the other person, they can buy t-shirts, they can plaster posters all over the place and put what they want on it, and therefore you don't and they don't get the full information. So that is initially, to me, the most basic aspect of the role of media in a democracy. And of course, we're talking about freedom of the media. And so if the media is not free, then you get only one side, you know, and you don't get the other side. Or you have the people in authority denigrating the media that doesn't bring messages that favor them. And therefore, you get misinformation, which we can argue is even worse than no information at all.
Yeah.
And so, Loftus, that in a nutshell, I think, encompasses the role of the media, the role of a free media in a democracy.
Brother Drago, thank you for your opening comments here on the role or the important role that the media is supposed to play in any democratic country. And those persons who know me out there, you know, I'm a very straight shooter. And so, Brother Drago, I'm going to ask you this afternoon a question. You are in the media fraternity. What we are witnessing in Dominica, Drago, and I am privy to that, so I'm talking from experience. There is a sort of subtle manipulation, right? Or micromanagement of the quote unquote professional people in the media in Dominica by certain elements. And that manipulation that I speak of, that micromanagement that I speak of, it is certainly not auguring well for the good for freedom of press in Dominica. Let us leave it to Dominica because that is where we're concentrating tonight. You being a man in the media, Brother Drago, what would you say to persons who are actively doing that kind of dirty work, I call it, to sort of suppress information as it pertains to mingling and meddling and micromanaging and sometimes manipulating professionals or people who are supposed to be professional bodies in the media in Dominica?
So it is, in my opinion, freedom of media is under threat in Dominica. I don't know if it's under threat anymore, it's under attack in Dominica. I'll give you a story we had at TDN. After Hurricane Maria, I don't know if you were aware that TDN was the only media that was available for Dominicans to communicate with each other. It happens that we provide a service and we hosted the server for Q95. And then when the storm was coming, we took over the server. And that's why we worked 24 hours, 7 days a week after Hurricane Maria, taking calls from Dominica all over the place, wanting to know what's going on in their family. As a matter of fact, the first contact that came out of Dominica was because there was a ham radio operator somewhere in the Midwest in the US that heard us. And he went on his ham radio and tried to make contact. And he happened to make contact with a ham radio guy in Portsmouth. And the guy communicated with him. And then he called us at TDN and told us what he had heard and so on. So I'm just saying that is the role that TDN played. The reason I'm saying that is because, do you know that when the Prime Minister eventually made it out of Dominica, and he came to Brooklyn, where I live, to meet with the public, we are known to bring a lot of live events from the US. We had a crew with cameras and everything go to that event to try to carry it live so Dominicans could see what the Prime Minister and hear what he says and provide that reassurance. It was in a couple of weeks after Hurricane Maria. When the crew arrived there and they found out that the program was going to be broadcast via TVN, they were denied access to the function. That is the level of freedom of media that Dominicans are experiencing. And after this is not something that I hear in the press, or this is actual experience. The crew that went there was denied access to the function when they told the authorities that this program would have been streamed live on TVN media. The day after.
And you dead serious about that happened, because I don't want persons to go off here tonight thinking that Drago is just speculating.
No,
that happened. That's a fact.
And Loftus, to make it worse, I will tell you that the crew that went there are known to be staunch Labour Party supporters. We collaborated with them on a business level.
Okay.
As a matter of fact, I get flack for associating with them because, these guys are Labour guys and they don't say anything about the government. Why are you associating with them? I have listeners on this live right now who message me and ask me that all the time. So the crew that went there are known supporters of the government. When they got there and they mentioned that it was going to be streamed live on TVN, we were denied access to the function. The function was streamed live instead on some station from Antigua, ABS or something like that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Drago, I thank you for that bit of factual information coming from the horse's mouth, as it were, this afternoon, in that a lot of times when we speak about these kind of situations where the press in that situation is suppressed by the powers that be, some persons say, oh, you guys are just speaking off your head and we need concrete evidence, as it were. So here it is, Drago, you are reporting to the listeners and viewers this afternoon that a natural disaster such as Hurricane Maria struck us in Dominica, leaving incalculable damage at the back. And then the man who sits in the chair of Prime Minister, having gotten word that the information that he would be giving to seek help for Dominicans and Dominica's cause, you guys at TDN Radio, TDN Network, you guys were shut out of that presentation?
Yes. No, I don't know if the decision was made directly by him, okay? Because he has a staff that works in the US from the consulate office. And those were the persons that they had that conversation with that denied them access. So
I understand what you're saying, Drago, but the buck have to stop somewhere.
Yeah, and I'm not saying that to I'm just people grab at a straw.
Yes.
Well, when did you talk to me? Nobody spoke to me. Well, no, I'm saying that, and I can if we get challenged, I will call names. But also, Loftus, I will let you know that the day after Hurricane Maria, because when I realized that we were the only voice that Dominicans could listen to, I called the staff of the consulate and told them that we at TDN have broadcasts and Dominicans are calling to find information. Our mic is available to you at any time. Anytime you choose to, just come, whether it's a message from you, it's an official word from the government. I know you haven't established contact with the government because it was the day after Maria. I extended that invitation. I had the courtesy of a response. It said, thank you. It said, thank you for the invitation. And it didn't go further. Even if I followed up on that, it did not go further. And Loftus, I have the recordings of the calls that Dominicans were making to us. Because there was no word of Dominica. All we know is that it was devastated and people were worried about their family. And we got calls on from Point Michel. And I hear Point Michel are flooding. Do you have any information? I am so-and-so. I'm in Germany and my family is in Cochrane. I mean, I have the record. We got thousands of calls a day because we stayed on air 24 hours. And in that 24 hours, we got calls every second. When we had 2 calls, 5 calls on the line, there were 10 waiting.
Wow.
And during that devastating time, the government of Dominica did not miss a bit in terms of their partisanship and refused to come on TDN to say, well, you know, we don't have any word as yet, but as soon as we get word, we'll hear from you or nothing.
Wow.
So,
Paula.
I don't want us to go too much on that, but I think those are pretty serious examples when we talk about access to media and the freedom of media that Dominic are allowed to access.
Yeah. Paula, you're listening. You have listened to what Mr. Drago said here. Before I go to some comments here, what are your thoughts, Paula, based on what you just heard?
Lofty, what the gentleman have said here, it's not the first time that I'm hearing that. I heard that before. And I'm saying when information, persons out there wanted to get the information, what happened in Dominica, it was not allowed to be given. No, he spoke about people choosing the persons to represent them. And I believe this is what that should be happening in Dominica, but we are seeing it the other way around. We saw that even just recently when there was a by-election at Grand Bay. When we saw that when the people of Grand Bay decided, okay, we are going to have this person to represent us, we saw that they took a gentleman from the St. Joseph constituency and placed him in Grand Bay. So this is not new. He spoke about the media. We have been seeing what happened to DBS radio and GIS. When certain persons, you know, want to have certain things being aired there, it's like they tell you, okay, because it's political, this cannot be played, you know, and it's like, we've been seeing what happening. So it's like what the gentleman is saying here, it's no different. And like certain persons are being selective on what that they do, on what they say. And I mean, this is no democracy, because if we're talking about a democratic country where the media is supposed to be open, like we have the opposition, for example, where their voices cannot be heard on GIS and on DBS radio because they are being selective of what that they do and what they say. It's like, this is not right. And sometimes when you speak, people say, oh, that you attack this person, and because of that, you do not support this person, and you know, certain information cannot go out there. How can we be calling ourselves a democratic country and you know, these kind of attitudes are being displayed? We are not going to go anywhere with that. So what Mr. Drago have said here this afternoon is not new to my ears, and I know it's not new to a number of persons who are viewing us and listening to us by whatever media here this evening.
Yeah, true. Let me apart in addition, Drago, to your case of evidence that you brought a while ago, read that crass political partisan nonsense that goes on in the media in Dominica. And what Paula just alluded to. Let me give you guys another scenario where the press is being subjected to something else other than the freedom of press that it's supposed to be. Here it is, a couple of years back, 5-6 years back, thereabout. I was the president then of the movement in Dominica called the Concerned Citizen Movement, that is CCM. We decided to hold a public meeting somewhere. I cannot remember where it was at the top of my head now. We decided to put a couple advertisements on different radio stations in Dominica. When I went to DBS radio, that is supposed to be the nation station, the gentleman there, I'm calling his name because that is a conversation we had. I sat in his office when I called to query why our advertisement from CCM could not go through onto DBS airwaves, which is the people's station, by the way, as was written. The case in point was that we had a script, really public meeting we wanted to have. And a line in that script Drago, Paula, the listening public said at the ending of that ad, come one, come all. That is basic information, a basic request as to, okay, you're putting out an ad out there, you want people to come to the event. Mr. Cecil Joseph, when I inquired why the ad is not being aired on DBS, we paid in full. Cecil Joseph called me in and told me, or instructed me rather, we need to take off the line in that ad that says, come one, come all. In that DBS radio, yes, Drago, you're laughing. It is a sense of comedy that is happening in Dominica where the press is concerned. Cecil Joseph is saying to me, DBS cannot say or should not say for you guys at CCM, come one, come all. It's like as though DBS is sort of encouraging persons to come to your event. I say, but Mr. Joseph, what is it that you want to see? What is it that you want CCM to see? He say, oh, we have to strike up that line. Everything else can stay as is. I say, Mr. Joseph, I don't know what the group decides. But as for me, I am prepared to pull out that ad in the radio. Because you cannot tell me the radio station, which is supposed to be the people station, asking the people to come one, come all. You're telling me DBS cannot and will not go down that road by saying to the people out there, come one, come all. That is ludicrous, Mr. Joseph. And we had it out. I left his office, and subsequently they had to refund us the money because the other members decided, you know something? That is a level of madness as it pertains to freedom of the press in Dominica. And so that Drago, that listening public, that was just a microscopic situation as to the level of madness that goes on in our war situation in Dominica. There are other situations which we don't have time to get into. But that gives us an idea where we are in terms of the shallowness, the sort of crass partisan nonsense that goes on in our radio stations across the length and breadth of this country, especially the one that's supposed to be working in the interest of the people, DBS Radio. And so I rest.
And Loftus, you know, what I would say to that, it's an ad. Dominicans are used to ads. You get an ad for a dance in Salisbury on Saturday night, and the ad is telling you all roads lead to Salisbury. Come one, come all. Come and enjoy yourself. People interpret that as it's DBS that is telling people to go to Salisbury to a dance. So we know that is scraping the bottom. You know, that is just putting in to make it look like you're following procedures. And therefore you say, we had issues with the ad, we asked them to change certain line. One line we asked them to change out of the entire ad. Just one line, and they refused to change that one line. So it's not our fault that the ad did not hear. Until somebody would dig in the background and find out that is that petty thing. And folks listening to that, Loftus, the implications of that is tremendous. Because as the UN said, the importance of media freedom is to democracy, one, but it is also to peace. And it is also to the delivering of sustainable development.
True.
So folks see that, and it's bad enough that it's interpreted as protecting the party in power and protecting their legacy and winning elections. But we have to understand that lack of freedom of press is affecting our ability to access education, our ability to have proper health care, our ability to have proper roads, our ability to have jobs to be able to support our family. Because if we have the premise that we are a democracy, it's because we believe that democracy is the best way in which we can achieve the development of our country. And if an important aspect of democracy is the media, and that media is not being allowed to fully function, it's going to affect democracy, which in turn affects the ability of the country to manage its resources and provide development for the people. So I'm repeating it, that it's not just, it's bad enough, but it doesn't just affect politics. It affects economics, social, health, every aspect of our lives, that we don't have a free press. The UNESCO is reporting that 85% of the world population had experienced a decline in press freedom in their country in the last 5 years. And I will tell you, a number of journalists have lost their lives doing their job. I'm trying to see if I get the number. I have the number, but the hundreds of journalists lose their lives trying to do their jobs or getting attacked. And so that is another aspect of it, is that we look at it and we don't realize that this is so serious, that it's not going to stay like this. Like right now, it's they denying you an ad. The next thing is pulling your license if your media is licensed, and or arresting you. They use laws like anti-slander laws to say that, oh, if you say this, where's your proof? So they take you to court and they sue you, and they make you spend money, like they do that a lot in the leader of the opposition, and they arrest you and all of those things. All of those tactics that the governments use to suppress the freedom of the media. And we in Dominica are seeing that in those incidents is increasing and increasing and increasing. And folks, we have to take it seriously, and we have to make sure that we have a strategy to counterbalance it and prevent it from deteriorating to where our journalists are starting to get disappeared.
Yeah. All right, Brother Drago, we realize there's much more that can be said, but we are on top of the hour. That is 7 o'clock. And so we are bang right there. So in the interest of time, we always want to keep our time slot, because we don't know what our viewers and listeners, what they have to do with the time, other than 7 o'clock or past 7 o'clock. So we don't want to keep them too long. That conversation, for sure, we have to, go back to it in terms of the freedom of the press. There's much more aspects that we can look into. But in the interest of time, we want to wind it up here and now. So let me move back to Paula Celestine so that she can give her closing comments, as it were, and then to you, Mr. Drago, and then I'll come to wrap it up here for yet another Civic Vibes program. Paula.
Yes, lovely. Yes, thank you. And like Mr. Drago have said about the journalists, I believe here in Dominica, even some of the journalists themselves, some of these journalists, they go out there in the streets, they get the reports, and some of them, they are afraid to go back and deliver what the general public have told them. I know sometimes, to protect radio stations and all of that, you won't just go saying every and anything that someone have spoken to you about. But a number of times, we've seen journalists who go out there and people report to them certain things and things that the general public should be aware of. And these people, they are afraid for them to go out there and to, to do what they have to do. Some of the journalists as well, when they meet persons who are in high places and persons who are supposed to represent the people, and the questions that they have to put to them, they just brush this aside. For example, we have the man who sits in the chair as Prime Minister. We have a few journalists in Dominica here. Sometimes when they meet these people, or like they meet this man who sits in the chair as Prime Minister, they will not come close to him with a mic for them to ask him the questions that they think the public been asking of him for a very long time. And then when they meet other persons, they are selective in who that they speak to and the questions that they ask to certain persons. But the right thing that the people need to know, some of them, they do not do that. So even some of the journalists themselves, I have to blame some of them, because they are very selective on what that they do and with who that they do it.
So
And
in
for
a,
democracy,
in a nutshell, Paula, you're saying they get the news, but they're afraid to report.
yes,
Yeah.
because when you go to the streets, Lofty, and you meet a number of persons in the street, you ask them certain questions. You go back to the station, you report on some of it. The questions that the people are asking you as a journalist, when you meet the people who they want to put the question, you brush it aside. You do not ask the persons that they are telling you to go back here to ask the question. And these are things that are very important that persons need to know. But
Yeah.
I will say again, to maintain our democracy here in Dominica, a number of persons who are blocking the way and want to stifle what democracy is supposed to be, we are saying we're supposed to put an end to that. Yeah, love.
All right, Paula, thank you for your parting words, as it were. Thank you very much indeed. Brother Drago.
Yes, Loftus. What in his message on World Press Freedom Day, UN Secretary General Antonio Gutierrez urged governments, media organizations, and technology companies everywhere to support the work of the media in speaking truth to power, exposing lies, and building strong, resilient institutions and societies. And so it speaks exactly to what Paula just spoke about, that as media people, we have a responsibility to be courageous enough to report the news. And when we don't, we are protecting lives. And the purpose of the media in a democracy is to strengthen that democracy so that it can be reflective of the best government that is of the people, meaning that it came up from the people, that it is functioning for the benefit of the people, so it's for the people, and that the people have the full information and education that they need to select their representatives. So government would be of the people, for the people, and by the people. And you can argue that the most important institution that guarantees that is a free media. After, before I go, let me just say thank you. I think this is my last thing. Thank you so much for inviting me on. Thank you for the listeners for the interaction and the feedback. Thank you to Paula. I felt very welcome. And I hope that when I speak to my good friend Alvin Thomas, I will get a favorable response and report from him. So again, thank you to Civic Vibes for all that you guys do. Good night, everyone. And I wish you a wonderful week.
The olive branch that we mentioned earlier, Brother Drago, Paula may be reaching out to you.
Yes. Thank you very much, Mr. Drago. It was nice having you.
Thank you so much.
Discussion here this afternoon.
I felt very welcome.
Yes, Alvin
indeed.
will be pleased. Alvin will be pleased.
I'm humbled. Thank you.
Yeah, okay, good.
All right, our good folks out there from Paula, myself, and Alvin. Well, Paula, Alvin, and myself, let me say thank you very much for those of you who tuned in this afternoon to a very informative and educative show. We want to always keep that bar right up there in terms of the information that we dispense right here on Civic Vibes. On behalf of the team that is behind the scene, we want to say thank you to them as well for keeping Civic Vibes on the social media platform alive and well. Your work, it is multiplying each and every Sunday. So thank you very much, Dominicans, by and large. Those of you who tuned in this afternoon, please, we are also, every program that you listen to, it is also recorded on a podcast. So you have as well that avenue whereby you can go back in the comfort of your drawing room, on your bed later, whatever it is. It is very flexible in that you can go and listen to that program again on the podcast that we produce every week right here on Civic Vibes. This afternoon, we started recognizing World Rivers Day. And we did a good job at that this afternoon by recognizing our waterway, recognizing the importance of water to Dominica. And one person or some persons really summed it up nicely. Like the Wasco tagline says, water is life. We also had our second segment, basically really boring holes this afternoon. Brother Carlton Lando, a pharmacist by profession, came and spoke to us about the need for men in particular to check your prostate, check the level of your prostate, at least by the age 40 thereabout. We had a testimony in the person of Brother Drago, who said that he keeps doing that ever so often. And so there's nothing that we, the men, should be shy of as it pertains to testing of that good old prostate in terms of our health. And finally, to bring down the curtains on things here, we had a discussion where we talked about the freedom of press in Dominica and how that is under attack. That is it for us here, as we will be leaving you very soon, but we'll be leaving you with a song again by Brother Nasio, where he's singing Under Attack. We just heard of the press that is being under attack, so how fit is that song to end with Brother Nasio? He entitles this one Under Attack. So on behalf of Civic Vibes, the team, and myself, thank you very much indeed. Yes, Paula.
Yeah, Lofty, before we go, let me say my deepest sympathy goes out there to the family of Martin Dyer. This is a young man I have known for a number of years. He worked at ACS Shillingford, and he has gone great beyond sometime earlier today. So my deepest sympathy goes out to his family and friends. Yeah, Martin was a very pleasant young man. You know, every time I see him, Martin is always smiling. So to the family, I want to say hold strong, and my prayers are with you all. Yeah, love.
Thank you very much, Paula. Thank you indeed.